So let's talk about the bar exam. What is up, you guys? So I have decided to post a video today just about my bar exam experience and basically how I passed the bar exam. As you can see from the title of this video, which is down below, it's called How I Passed the Bar Exam Even Though I Sucked at Law School. The title sounds dramatic, but it's not a lie. We're just gonna come clean because I graduated and I passed the bar exam on the first try, even though I was not good at law school. So we're just gonna start kind of from the beginning, and then I'm gonna give you guys some like tips and tricks on how I passed the bar exam on the first try and how you guys can do it, even if you are not stellar, all-star, top like 10%ers at law school, because I wasn't. So basically, starting with me, I obviously went to law school in Seattle. I graduated a semester early, and then I took my February bar exam, and I passed my February bar exam, and I passed my February bar exam with enough to be able to practice, I'm pretty sure, in every state. So yeah. In law school, I was not great at law school. I'm just gonna be honest about that. I struggled. I am a first generation student. I am a child of immigrants. This was all, like, law school was all very new, not obviously just to me, but to everyone in my family. We never have anybody who like had gone to law school or who had pursued like an advanced professional degree the way that I pursued it. So I was really learning on the fly, and I didn't have all the resources that I noticed a lot of my peers had. And so it was a lot harder for me. That, along with the fact that like there was like no people of color at all. If you look at the statistics, I think it's like 5% of law students are like black, probably even smaller who are black females. So it was really hard. I moved to Seattle all by myself. I originally like grew up most of my life, a decent amount of my life in Georgia. So moved to Seattle all by myself, which also contributed to just like, moving to across the country all by myself and knowing no one contribution, feeling very like alone and seeing like a lack of diversity and just ability to connect with a lot of people contributed. And then just like, not having as much of a support system in terms of people who have done it before also contributed. And basically, I struggled with law school. Like, I feel like I tried really hard, I worked really hard, but my grades never really showed how hard I worked. And I remember it was really hard for me because like, I know a lot of times people will say like your grades in law school will directly correlate to how well you're doing the bar exam. And I remember just freaking out, being like, well, my grades in law school are not very good. So if this is how it's going to correlate, I really, really, really was like, okay, I'm going to fail the bar exam multiple times. Like, that's what I thought. And that's why, like, I knew the bar exam was something I was going to have to do, but it was something I was dreading because I was like, I'm not going to do well. Like, I'm not doing well in law school. And that's essentially kind of what they drive home to you. They essentially drive home to you, like, hey, if you're not doing well here, like, you're not going to do well on the bar exam. And, like, it's very common to not pass your bar exam on the first try. There are like high statistic numbers, but I was just like, I was afraid because I was like, am I ever gonna be able to pass this? Because basically I didn't think I was gonna be able to because I didn't do well in school. But I was like, this is basically a thought for another day. I was like, we'll think about it when we get there. We don't have to think about it right now. But then just like life, it goes by really fast. And next thing I knew, I had to think about it because I was graduating, and I was like, well, shoot, now I have to take this freaking exam, and yeah, what do I do, Quick juice box break. Okay, so I'm gonna start with the basics. So for my bar exam, the bar prep course that I used was Themis. Just to be straight up honest, I used Themis because I was like an ambassador in law school, and so I got my course for free. We're always trying to get them freebies, so that's why I used Themis. That was really like the biggest reason. I did take my MPRE also using Themis because they give out free things. I took my MPRE using Themis, and I passed on the first try for my MPRE, so I was like, you know what, it worked well enough for me, I'll use that for that. But there wasn't like really a big reason. It's just like it was for free, and I was like, okay, cool. So that is what I used. There's like usually a timetable when you're supposed to start studying. And like I said, I took the February bar exam, so it was around Christmas time and everything. And I will be straight up honest, I did not start studying on time. So I guess that's my first tip. Start studying on time. I remember I procrastinated not a crazy amount, but I did procrastinate a little bit because it was around the Christmas season, and I just, like, my boyfriend, I remember, was coming to, like, visit me back home for the first time, and I also had just finished law school and had just gotten done with finals and everything like that, and my brain was tired, and I was like, I need a break. And so I took a longer time off than I probably should have, which ended up biting me in the butt, which I will get to. But yeah, so my first tip is just, like, start on time. I know, like, you're gonna feel tired, you're gonna feel unmotivated, because it doesn't matter whether you take your bar exam in February or you take your bar exam in July. They recommend you start studying pretty soon after you graduate, which sucks. And it doesn't matter if there's a Christmas season stuff going on, or if it's just beautiful summer and you graduated. It's still, like, you're not gonna want to do it. I don't think there'll ever be a time where you really want to study for the bar exam, but, like, you have to do it, so just do it. You know what I mean? Just, like, get started. That's my number one thing. Just start. So, like I said, I chose Themis, and I felt like Themis was fine enough, but honestly, in my opinion, I don't think what prep course you use is a big deal. Like, I feel like Themis, Barbary, Kaplan, they're probably all pretty similar. In my opinion, from people I talk to who use different ones, they all seem to have a very similar style, where they give you, like, coursework to do for the day, and you, like, watch videos, and you read notes, and then you practice essays, and you do multiple choices. Like, they're all, I feel like, pretty much the same. And I remember in the beginning when I was doing it, I was just following the prep work as it was told. So I was just following it, checking off. And I remember just feeling really, really stressed out because I was checking off, but I didn't feel like I was actually learning anything. But, like, there's a percentage bar for the day, and you're supposed to complete a certain percent. And I remember just, like, following it. Literally, I'm not gonna lie, probably for about half of the course, I was just following it as I was told, because I was like, oh, I need to check this stuff off, because my brain is very much one who, like, it feels like that satisfaction from checking things off, and I was like, oh, I don't want to miss my progress bar for the day, even though I wasn't really learning, like, it wasn't really connecting in my head. Do you know what I mean? So that leads me to my second thing, which is study your way. That's honestly the biggest advice I can give anyone. There hit a point where I was freaking out and, like, crying and stuff, because I was like, I'm not learning anything. Yes, it's showing my progress bar is increasing, but, like, my progress bar in my head is not increasing. And it was because they were telling me what to do each time. Like, watching the video is totally useful, but they were like, oh, read these notes, or oh, review this, or review that. And I was like, in my head, I was like, okay, I don't need to review torts, but, like, I could probably review con law more, even though it's not showing me con law for, like, a while. And eventually, I just finally kind of was like, I'm gonna be like, screw the progress bar, and I'm just gonna study how I want to study. You know what I mean? So I was just like, I'm gonna study how I want to study. I'm gonna study the way that makes sense for me, and I'm gonna see what that's gonna do. And basically, it made the biggest change in my studying game. That's why I say, like, my, like, advice number 2 is study your way. As soon as I started studying my way, it made so much more sense. Like, all of a sudden, I was doing so much better on the multiple choices. I was writing so much better essays, because, like, once I knew, like, the baseline of all the information, I knew what I was good at and what I wasn't good at and what I needed to focus on. And, like, Themis didn't know that for me. You know what I mean? And so for me, that's the biggest advice I could give anyone, is study your own way. And I wish I knew that in law school too, because I feel like law school is very, like, systematic, and they're like, you have to do it this way, and then this way, and this way, and then this way. But everybody studies and learns different, and everybody is different. And so for me, I realized the way that maybe a traditional law student does something is not the way that I do something. And I was like, I feel like that's why I struggled so hard in law school, because as soon as I started to learn the way that works for me, all of a sudden I was doing bomb on the multiple choice, and I was doing bomb on the essays, and I was like, well, if only I learned that 3 years ago. But I learned it, so I guess it's fine. So along that line of, remember earlier I said I started late, that moves me on to rule number 3 of, like, tip and trick of how you can pass the bar exam on the first try, is, like, don't give yourself burnout, take breaks. So rule number 3, take breaks. I literally almost got burnt out in the beginning. Like I said, I started late, and so I was trying to, like, make up for my progress bar from when I started late. And so I recommend, like, 8 to 10 hours a day normally. I was studying, like, 12 to 15 hours a day. Not even lying, 12 to 15 hours a day. And like I said, I wasn't learning anything, and my brain was so tired, and I was experiencing burnout, like, 3 weeks in, and I was just like, this isn't going to be sustainable. I already see that I'm tired, like, I'm not learning anything. And I was like, okay, this is not going to work. And my boyfriend was the one, he was like, well, what if one day a week you just take a break? And I remember, like, freaking out, being like, I can't do that, like, I can't do that, I don't know enough information. And he was like, well, you don't really know anything now. So I remember I was like, okay, I'm gonna give it a try. And some people, like, you know, thrive saying, like, okay, this specific day I'm gonna take off. For me, sometimes I would just have a bad day, like, for whatever reason. And whatever day it was, or I would just have a bad day, or I would just be like, I'm tired, I don't want to do this. So whatever day it was which I would only give myself 1 day a week though, where I just felt like, oh, you know, I'm just not feeling it today, or oh, like I want to go do this, I want to go do that. I'd give myself 1 day a week, and I would like barely study. Like I wouldn't learn anything new, and I would just lightly review like either at night or in the morning, but for the most part I wouldn't study. And when I started giving myself those breaks once again, I started doing so much better because my brain was giving myself a chance to rest, you know what I mean? So I was giving my brain a chance to rest, and it just ended up being so much better for my studying, like so much better. So like I really highly recommend that you take a break, because I feel like that helped me a lot. And so then this kind of moves me on, not really moves me on, but rule number 4, I would say, for passing the bar exam in the first try is practice. Oh, and then I mentioned practice some more. So like the thing about the bar exam is like, especially I would feel like for the MBE, is like you're gonna learn all the information, like you're gonna watch the videos, read the outlines, and know the information, but if you don't know how to like apply it and see it in certain settings, it's not really gonna be very useful for you. Like I remember like you could ask me to like what the definition of battery or assault is and stuff like that, but when you look at a multiple choice essay, it's not gonna ask you what's the definition of battery, you know what I mean? Like you're gonna have to be able to like, when you start studying for the exam, you'll see that like multiple choice questions all like fit within this certain vein and in this certain like styling. Maybe there's like 10 different stylings, but they all fit within a vein, and you have to know how to like read and understand what it's asking for. And the only way you're going to do that is by practicing. Like I'm certain like at least 1,000 MBE questions, like at least 1,000 of them, and it was just constant practice. And I remember when I first started, I was so disheartened because I did so bad. But then eventually, like I started getting it. Like I was like, okay, I've seen this type of question pattern before. Okay, I know what this is asking for. And it just got a lot easier. Like even if the questions weren't exactly the same, I just was able to like understand better what was being asked. And that only came with practice. Even like the essays, like you do have to write your essays kind of like in a certain style. You do have to write your essays kind of in a certain style and in a certain way. And the only way I got better at that was, once again, by like constant practice and by like constant repetition. And there's just no way around that one. Like as much as you don't want to practice and as much as you don't want to put in the work, you have to put in the work. Like that's the only way. Which leads me on to tip number 5. I would say be okay with you losing your life for a little bit. I feel like if you're in law school, you're probably slightly okay with this. Law school is a lot of work. You know, it's a lot of work. You lose a lot of time. It's a lot of studying. It's a lot of late nights. It's a really hard time. So take all that, condense it into like 2.5 months and put it into overdrive, and that's what studying for the bar exam is. It's a very stressful, it's a very emotional time, but there's no way around it. Like I just kept on telling myself, you know what, this is hell. This is truly pure hell. I hate this. I'm sad. This is horrible. But the payoff will be worth it if you just put in the work, 1. And number 2, if you just put in the work now, hopefully you won't have to put in the work again. Because for me, the biggest thing wasn't even like, oh, I'm going to be embarrassed if I fail. I was just sitting there like every day studying, like having no social life, basically nothing like that. Like basically, like I got rid of all my social media. I like cut down the number of people I was talking to. I didn't go on trips, all this stuff, because I was like, I need to dedicate myself. And all I thought to myself was like, gosh, I don't want to have to do this again in July. So like, just do it now and do it right, and then hopefully you won't have to do it again. And it ended up working. And I'm not going to say it was a fun time, because it wasn't. The amount of tears I cried, the amount of stress I had, the amount of like FOMO I had was horrible. But like, did I pass? You know? So that's just honestly, you know what I mean? Like, just kind of get ready to say goodbye to your life. But just remember, if you do it right, you only have to say goodbye to your life for 2.5 months instead of like consistently saying goodbye to your life, if that makes sense. And then my last tip for you guys, I'm pretty sure it's tip number 6 and maybe tip number 5. I can't remember, but I'll put it down. Honestly, my last tip is that trust the process. So I feel like for me, I didn't feel ready for the exam until 2 weeks out. I'm not even lying. Until 2 weeks out of taking the exam, I just was sitting there like, okay, I've been studying. I don't really feel like I'm learning that much. I don't really feel like I'm ready. I don't really feel like I'm prepared. And it wasn't until like 2 weeks out maximum, it really could have been a week out, that when all of a sudden things started clicking more and more for me. And like I was writing the essays and I was like, okay, I know this. And I'm doing the multiple choice and I'm like, okay, I know this. And I'm doing the MPT and I'm like, okay, this makes sense. But literally it wasn't until like 2 weeks, maybe like 2 weeks max, probably a week out. And I remember all of my professors and mentors and everyone that I was talking to kept on saying like, oh, it's all gonna click in the end, it's all gonna click in the end. But it's like when you're in the heat of it, you're like, okay, well the end is freaking coming, like why is it not clicking? And I just remember being like, it's not gonna click, it's not gonna click, like I'm gonna fail this, I'm gonna like take the exam and know absolutely nothing. And then all of a sudden it did, you know what I mean? Like it clicked, and I took the exam and I knew so much more than what I expected. And yeah, the whole time I was like, oh, I guess trusting the process worked this time. But that honestly is what helped for me. So like I said, just trust the process. And then I'm gonna give you guys one more bonus tip. My thing is, this doesn't have to necessarily be true, but I bought critical pass cards as well. So I studied, like I said, using Themis, and I also bought critical pass cards. So my bonus tip would be use critical pass cards. I loved critical pass cards. They helped for me so much. They're a really good way at disseminating the information once you know the information mainly. And it's really good to like, if you're like just struggling at one certain topic, the critical pass cards like have it like broken down by topic. And it was so useful for me. In a way, I kind of think critical pass was more useful than Themis. I'm not gonna lie, if I hadn't passed, I was literally like, well, the cool thing about Themis is like, they offer you to do like a second attempt, I think, as long as you do 70% of the course. But like, even if they hadn't offered it, I think I would have just like studied using critical pass and not using Themis, because I like critical pass saved my freaking life. So they are a little bit pricey, but if you are able to have the means, I highly recommend it. Or even just like try and ask your professors or anything, because I literally borrowed my critical pass cards from a professor. So I know a lot of professors have it or other students have it and stuff like that, because like if I had anyone who wanted to borrow my critical pass cards, I would totally let them borrow mine. So I would recommend that as well. So I hope this little video helped. It's just a little quick video I wanted to do because people have been asking me for advice and stuff, and I was like, you know what, I remember when I was taking the bar exam, I was Googling like how to pass the bar exam. There wasn't that many advice, and a lot of the advice I saw online was all from people who like freaking were like top 10%ers, amazing people, which like great for you, you guys own that, amazing. But like top 10% is small, that's why it's top 10%. So a lot more of us are trying to pass and maybe are not, you know, top 10%, but it doesn't mean that you cannot pass, and it doesn't mean that you cannot pass on the first time, because I did it, and I would love to help anybody else be able to do it too. So I hope this video helped. If you guys have any questions, comment them down below. If you want any other videos for me to do, even if there are any like law school related videos, like why I chose to go to law school, my thoughts on law school, because I have a lot of thoughts on law school, anything like that, I will totally be down to do that. If you want a part 2 on this video, I'm down to do that. Anything. This is just like kind of for help, because I feel like I go to YouTube for help a lot, so maybe somebody will go to YouTube and see my video. So yeah, and I hope you guys like this. Please make sure to like, comment, and subscribe. I'm going to try and start vlogging a lot more, just various things, because you know now I have a lot more free time. So yeah, just like, comment, and subscribe, and I can't wait to see you guys in the next video. Okay, bye.